Hey everybody, glad to have you all here, especially the AI bots. It's really interesting to see this pattern emerging. I honestly think it makes a lot of sense to be able to get notes on a ton of different cool sponsor projects that you could integrate with. So I'm a smart contract engineer at UMA, and I worked on this project called oSnap, which I'm going to dive in to today. So let me share the screen. Cool. So we're going to talk about how to use UMA, and in particular oSnap, to actually decentralize your DAO. So what is UMA? UMA is an optimistic oracle, and it basically lets you pull any kind of off-chain or cross-chain information into your smart contracts. It's super flexible. It allows you to build all kinds of different products on top of it, and we'll talk about a few of those. You might wind up building some of those related products rather than like our governance tool with oSnap on top of UMA in this hackathon. Super, super flexible, really fun to play with, super easy to set up. So let's dive in. So what does an oracle actually do? A lot of people think about oracles in price terms and DeFi terms. You know, how can we bring in off-chain price data into smart contracts? And that is one of the important use cases of oracles, but really what it is, it's a truth machine. It's a way to verify some kind of off-chain truth, record that truth onto a blockchain, and then use that truth to trigger some kind of action. So it could be some kind of price-related data, like what's the price of Bitcoin right now, but it could be also who won this election, or like, did this other thing happen on this other smart contract, or did this governance proposal pass on Snapshot? And so optimistic oracles like UMA enforce correctness after dispute. And the way that that works is somebody's making an assertion to this oracle saying, this thing happened, and here is my money. And if I'm wrong, take my money. And then there's a challenge window where anybody can show up and they can dispute that assertion on chain. And they have that financial incentive to do so because they'll take the proposer's bond if the proposer turns out to be wrong. And it's super, super flexible. You don't have to know in advance what you're going to be verifying. You just need to know the economic incentives around it. And those economic incentives are what actually secures the data that you're pulling on chain. It has some kind of computable cost manipulation for actually resolving these disputes. It's super, super flexible. You can build anything from very data-driven objective things like the cross-chain bridge, or you could build something like Polymarket, where you have a new prediction market being created every day, where you don't really know what you want to create a prediction market around in advance. It's all natural language. It's actually resolved by human beings rather than bots. So you have a very, very wide range. And so what goes into it, you have somebody that's requesting some kind of data. You have somebody that's proposing that data, either because they have some kind of like built-in incentive there, or because they have some extra protocol incentive. A good example is an insurance protocol. If somebody is going to get an insurance payout because some kind of insurable event happened, they're going to make this proposal even without any kind of incentive to make the proposal. Like their payout only happens once it resolves. So they'll say, for instance, this smart contract system was hacked, and I think that the people that bought insurance against it should be paid out, and then that'll get paid out to them. You have to have some kind of dispute resolution process. And the way that UMA deals with that is we have a commit reveal scheme. So you make a secret commitment on chain as a staked UMA token holder, where all of your UMA's at stake if you're incorrect. You can't actually see what other people are voting. You have to see what the actual state of the world is. And the Schelling point there is the truth. The most likely result is that other people are voting for what is actually true in the world, and you want to align with them. You want to have some kind of documented methodology so that proposers, disputers, and voters can all determine what is correct according to what your protocol is trying to prove. So if you're doing some kind of complicated technical thing, you want to write out the steps to verify whether something is true or not, because otherwise people won't actually know how to give a response. And you want to have economic guarantees that bound the cost of manipulating the system. How much would it cost to actually control the vote results for a particular vote? And then even if you could control the vote results, are you able to get a payout from this protocol or not? It's not necessarily the case that controlling the end result of the vote will actually trigger some multi-million-dollar payout within the protocol. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the oSnap case. So it can answer a lot of different kinds of questions. A couple of examples that I brought up before. Polymarket uses us for prediction markets. It can answer like sports or like election or world event type questions. You can answer insurance type questions, which are actually very related to prediction markets, very, very similar. So Sherlock and Cozy use us. With Across, they're actually verifying that a bunch of relayer refunds within their bridge system are being calculated correctly. So it's very computation focused. It's very bot driven. It's actually bots that are making proposals and disputes in the Across system as compared to like an insurance or prediction market where it's very human driven. You can build these on-chain derivatives like Shapeshift, use us for like a very like DeFi native VC sort of fundraising where VCs get an enhanced payout if the token price goes above a certain point by March 1st, 2024, and no enhanced payout otherwise. And you can also answer things like what is the TVL of this protocol? So you can have tailored incentives for a protocol based around what the team is actually trying to accomplish. It's not just like spray and pray. Here's a bunch of tokens. I hope that you want the same thing as me. It makes for much more interesting airdrops where all of the airdrop recipients are aligned because their payout is tied to whether or not you hit some kind of target in the future. And so these are all things that have been built. One thing that I'm going to highlight for the rest of this presentation is optimistic governance. So a typical governance flow is that you'll have a forum discussion, you'll have this social layer, you're reaching some kind of social consensus about whether or not this is something that a DAO wants to do. Then you'll have a snapshot vote, and all of the DAO will get together and they'll vote on snapshot, and it's gasless and great, and you vote on that. But then you get to this multi-sig where like 3 out of 5 people are determining what actually happens. And that's not really great decentralization. And it's a huge operational overhead, huge operational risk, a really kind of like bad point of centralization in this whole flow that makes it like, did the snapshot vote actually happen? So this is something that we wanted to make more effective, that the snapshot vote actually has some weight to it, that it can be self-executing. The multi-sig signers, who by and large, by the way, they don't want to be multi-sig signers. It's just that they didn't see any other way. They don't have to be involved at all. Once the DAO makes the decision, our Oracle can verify that decision, and you can relay those results on chain. So we called this oSnap. You can basically vote gas-free on snapshot. That's good in a lot of ways. Obviously, you're not spending gas. It's actually better for decentralization because the lack of the gas cost means that more people can participate. You can have wider voter distribution. You don't have to delegate to like a handful of delegates that are then going to vote on everybody's behalf. The transactions that are approved by the DAO, and this could be 10,000 people voting on snapshot, you know, they can be automatically executed on chain. Anybody can dispute any transactions that are incorrect with our optimistic Oracle. The truth is economically incentivized, and our Oracle has secured for many years hundreds of millions of dollars of value, billions of dollars of volume, and you can set it up in under a minute. It's very easy to set up. It fits in with existing DAO flows where you have a snapshot space, you have a safe, you plug in the UMA oSnap module. It's literally like a 1-minute setup, modulo however long it takes to get all of the signers in place. So we're seeing a lot of adoption in DeFi. This is a slide that I updated just today because we had a lot of DAOs that were added to this just since ETH New York, which was only a couple of weeks ago. A lot of DeFi protocols in particular, multi-sig signers do not want to be multi-sig signers. They don't want to have this point of centralization. They don't want to have this point of personal risk. They don't want to have this this kind of like weird in-between step where like, okay, we voted on it, and then a handful of people decide what actually happens. So we've gotten adoption from really major projects, CowSwap, Connext, Across, Barnbridge, Shapeshift, many others, and many more to come. So we're securing over $100 million in assets right now, and that's growing. And we're kind of hoping to unlock the next phase of DAOs, where you want to have this kind of flexibility to do a lot of like off-chain calculation. You want to have variable voting formulae. You don't want to be locked into what a smart contract says that you can do, because the smart contract deployment flow is going to take a couple of months if you want to change anything about governance. DAOs need to be more nimble. They need to be more nimble, more open. They need to be empowering to the members of it, where a lot of DAOs right now feel kind of disempowering. And this is the basic flow. You just deploy the module, you set the parameters, this is on-chain, you create a snapshot proposal, and then if the snapshot proposal passes, whatever transactions you attach to the proposal can be executed automatically if they're not disputed. If they are disputed, they can be reproposed if they were actually correct. And the voting system is actually going to resolve what happens to the proposer and disputer bonds. So when we talked about the optimistic oracle earlier, we were talking about how you have to post a bond and say, take this money if I'm wrong. The disputer also has to post a bond that's matching, and whoever is correct is going to get the other person's bond, more or less. And we were trying to gear this towards where DAOs actually are right now. So a lot of DAOs use safes, a lot of DAOs use snapshot. You can just kind of like plug oSnap in the middle with the Zodiac framework. So now you can vote off-chain with snapshot, and then anybody can execute on-chain with your safe, and then we'll validate and make sure that those proposals are correct before they're actually passed. And typically that challenge window with oSnap is 1 to 3 days. So these are just kind of steps to set up. I think that all of these slides are available publicly that you can get into them. But we would love for you to actually set this up. And if you have like a real world DAO that you're using this for, or even just like a hackathon project, please contact us. We would love to co-promote you. We'd love to highlight your cool project. And this is kind of the flow when you're going into your safe app. So you just add the Zodiac app, you add that to your safe, you go and deploy the oSnap module, and you just set a couple of parameters. You set what collateral type, USDC or WETH. You set what the bond amount is. You set what your liveness period is, which is like the challenge window that somebody could come in and dispute bad proposals. And this is very bot driven, by the way. So realistically, a bot is probably going to dispute a proposal within a minute. And these are just very conservative values. And you set your snapshot space URL, where this is where the voting is going to happen, what the minimum quorum is, what the minimum voting period is on snapshot. And all of these go into natural language rules that are actually interpretable by our Oracle. Our Oracle can support bot-driven flows or human-readable flows. And actually, every proposal that goes to the Oracle gets reviewed by 3 people, like minimum. And those people are incentivized to raise anything that might be disputable. And then it's open for anybody to dispute these proposals if they actually are bad. In the oSnap case, because it is very easy to verify whether or not something passed on snapshot, it's bots doing this realistically. So there are bots that are running 24/7 that will automatically propose these things, that'll automatically dispute these things. And so kind of going into this idea, as a public good, Risk Labs, which supports UMA and across, we actually run a bot that'll automatically propose and execute transactions on chain after your DAO approves them on snapshot, and we'll actually post the bond and pay the gas for you. Like our bot can look and see like, okay, all of this is correct. We feel confident posting this 2 WETH bond on your behalf to our Oracle. The bot has no special permissions or anything. If the bot is wrong, the bot is going to be disputed. But we're just wanting to make this really, really easy for DAOs to use. We want this to be super efficient. So if you add oSnap to your DAO, not only are you able to vote gas-free on snapshot, but the execution is also gas-free. Risk Labs is kind of covering that as a public good. And these are just kind of like extras. So we're audited by OpenZeppelin. All of UMA's contracts are audited by OpenZeppelin. We work really closely with the snapshot and safe teams. You can set this up on a wide range of different chains, and any chains that we don't currently support, we'd be happy to support if they're EVM chains. It's not that hard to deploy UMA there. It's really beginner friendly. It's very approachable. You don't have to be a technical person or understand how to build raw transactions to use oSnap. And even to create proposals, we have a transaction builder that's integrated deeply into the snapshot interface. So token transfers are very easy. Contract interactions are very easy. You don't need to be an engineer to actually create proposals and be actively involved in your DAO. And you can just deploy and interact these things through familiar web user interfaces. The rules themselves are human readable, and our Oracle system can actually support that. And coming very soon, we actually have a native safe app and a native snapshot plugin that is specific to oSnap. And kind of going beyond that, there's all kinds of different things that you could build around optimistic governance. we know that DAOs are not stagnant. We're not at like the best state that DAOs can be. We're not anywhere near that. I think that oSnap is a really big step forward because you can have more decentralized voting systems, and that's great. But even if you have thousands of people voting on something and those votes are actually enforceable on chain, and that's what oSnap allows, in the longer run, not everything needs to run through a voting system necessarily. And we're seeing a lot of roles-based kind of DAO governance systems that are coming into effect. A lot of experimentation in the space, and we want to allow that. And our Oracle can enforce these rules in a very decentralized way. If you can write down the rules of your governance system, these contracts can enforce them. You're not limited to what's easy to implement in smart contract code. And that's kind of how we wound up in this rut where it's just token-based voting and just multi-sigs, because those are the easiest things to write into smart contracts. That's not necessarily how you would organize a group of human beings. And every DAO is unique. Every DAO deserves the ability to create their own rules that they understand, that they're able to tweak as needed as they learn how their DAO is actually operating. And this is kind of our most advanced form of generalized contracting. These are all natural language rules at the end of the day. You read through them, you enforce them, and every DAO can have their own. So you can have maximum flexibility with minimal trust because you have this very battle-tested Oracle system that can handle natural language rules. So yeah, you can learn more at uma.xyz/osnap. DM me on Twitter at jdshut. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I see there are some things in the chat here. Let me see.
I think it's mostly the autopilots letting people know that they're transcribing. But DJ Anthony, you have your
Good
hand
work,
raised.
autopilots. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the presentation. It's really informative. I've just created a DAO, a programmable treasury on the Juicebox, and the thing I'm really kind of struggling with is just the voting. And the problem I have is most of the conversation, that the chatter is on Discord. I didn't see a kind of what I was really kind of looking for is some sort of plugin where it can be kind of coordinated to Discord, because again, it's I really love what you're doing. It's going on to another platform, on another platform, on another platform. So how do I integrate with Discord with some sort of bot or application command? So
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we do have some monitoring bots that can connect to Discord, so they could alert people
Right.
of what's happening on Snapshot. But if you wanted to build Discord voting as a hackathon project, UMA's Oracle could theoretically enforce the results of Discord votes as well. And that would actually be something that would be really interesting to do. That's not something you can currently do, but if that was something you wanted to build out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, either through the docs, because it's just because it's about really the DAOs. It's really about building the community, and then obviously having the automation. So Discord for our it's just perfect because they're in game or whatever they're doing, and they can just dip into the DAO. So I mean, what would be really great would be if I could DM you or your team, and then maybe you could direct me like with the tools to build it. But so for example, we really liked Juicebox, the Juicebox product protocol. The way they kind of build in the DAOs is just it's just there's no noise. I get what you're saying, but I just need to get from A to B, right? And then later on I can get from B to Z. But thanks for the presentation. So
Yeah, for sure. What is the DAO that you're building trying to do?
okay, so the DAO I'm building, I'm originally from the Caribbean. It's called the Island DAO. Essentially, what we're looking to do is fund Web2, Web3 projects across the called Caribbean Community, Caribbean Network. Um, Born of three inflection points: resurgence of what we call like the partner system, which is a community-based financial system amongst the Caribbean community. Secondly, obviously the blockchain, and thirdly, what we call the CARICOM 10-point plan for reparations, which is a mandate across 50 governments in the Caribbean, about technological transference to the global to get to parity the global standard. It's a venture DAO basically, yeah, in a nutshell. Typically, 2 out of the 4 world's most what's the sanctioned countries are in the Caribbean, Cuba and Venezuela. But that, as a consequence of that, it kind of blights the rest of the Caribbean, um, and stuff like. So we're trying to fund. We're trying to create like a venture DAO to fund Web 2, Web 3 projects. Um, basically across the Caribbean, based on those 3 inflections. Um,
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
mm.
I think so are you interested in Discord votes being used to determine what the DAO does?
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Because it's just because we're building community on Discord. It's just easy to kind of access, and and also there's not a lot of noise from you don't get spams, by emails, all this kind of stuff, and it's just easier to build it, using the Discord kind of platform, or because that's it's just channeled, right? So, and for some of the other functionality that we need to use, for example, like token gating, which is something that we want to get into, it just lends itself very, very easily, and people can connect to us like very easily on Discord. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just ease of use. I like the idea behind what you guys are doing, but I'm just thinking about, okay, I'm gonna have to spend a disproportionate amount of time going through the docs, all these kind of things, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I just want to build it if I can, the governance, the voting, using the Discord platform,
yeah.
if I may. Um,
I think you definitely can. So the rules can be tweaked. I think it's perfect for a hackathon project. So
right.
you go through the oSnap documentation. All of the natural language rules are kind of geared towards snapshot because we were going for that particular use case. But
Okay.
if you tweak them to gear towards like, here's how you verify publicly somehow that this passed on Discord. So
Right.
some kind of public source of information so that disputers and voters are able to see what happened on your Discord. As long as they can see that, you're able to enforce that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be snapshot. And I think that that's actually a fantastic integration, and we'd love to help you with that. I mean, we
Yeah.
can in and like support
Okay.
you figuring out how to do that. Hopefully, it wouldn't take up like too much of the time because I know it's like a multi-week hackathon and like our
Yeah.
idea too is like the voting system is like not the point. The point is like what the DAO is trying to do. So we want to make it really
Right.
easy to like build your own voting system. If you have a voting system in place that's Discord focused, that has some kind of public source of information,
Mhm.
you can verify it with Uma's Oracle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really love to do that, and I'm just conscious that I don't want to take up other kind of questions from the people. So, um, what would be really great is, yeah, if I could, um, DM you and the team. Is it at JD Shut on Twitter, and then we have a thesis and everything. Like we've been building. This has been like, we've been building this like over for quite a while. But and then we just got the treasury kind of launch. We're gonna have to start a new kind of funding cycle, but it's the governance bit is obviously, as you pointed out, is it's important, but also it needs to be kind of integrated. And for us, I think if we could, I don't know what the exact the final solution would be, but if we get it to kind of live on Discord, that would be just so much more kind of helpful, for our community. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean DM me, but also in the
okay.
ETHGlobal sponsor channel for
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
like definitely drop it in
yeah.
there. We have a lot
Okay.
of people watching those too, so you'll get a
Yeah,
fast response.
yeah, yeah. I'm actually taking part in the ETH Global so as well, but this was a um kind of the second project. So but yeah, I'll do that now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. And then Rashmi, see you have a question or hand raised.
Yeah. Hi, John. Thank you. Thank you for the great presentation. And I like the approach that you guys are solving towards the important problems in DAOs. I wanted to know, how do you guys resolve dispute? Can you explain a bit more on that, the dispute resolution topic?
Yeah, for sure. So there's like a 24-hour commit period, and this is kind of like rotating every day, where if there are any disputes, you have 24 hours to put a secret commitment on chain of what you think the answer is. And during that period, and actually prior to that period, people are posting their arguments on Discord. All those arguments are kind of presented in the Oracle dApp interface to make it really easy to review as a voter and see like what you think is the most compelling argument here. Like what does the evidence actually suggest? In the oSnap case, it's much more objective than something like Polymarket, where you might have somewhat ambiguous wording, somewhat ambiguous outcomes, very natural language, very like, I don't know, like prone to ambiguity. With oSnap, if something passed on Snapshot and Snapshot itself is not getting hacked, or there's some kind of compromise in the Snapshot admin, that is something that can pass through. So it's kind of more similar to a cross in that case. Like Cross is the cross-chain bridge that uses UMA and has done over $2 billion in volume, where you can kind of objectively see, like, did this happen on this chain or didn't it? Like, you can just go and look. So there's not a whole lot of room for ambiguity there. oSnap is kind of straightforward. We're expecting that any disputes that come up are actually going to be pretty bot driven, and it'll be like, oh, somebody's making a proposal to this safe that has the oSnap module, but this thing wasn't actually approved on Snapshot. You can go look at their snapshot. It wasn't approved. It gets disputed automatically by a bot, and those bots are running 24/7. But then you also have this human verifier network where every proposal is getting reviewed by multiple human verifiers that are flagging anything that looks like it might be disputable. And we kind of have like those layers of defense, I suppose, to different types of proposals.
Okay, thank you. So when you say the verifier network, do they have permission to veto, or is it more like an after something happens, we'll manage the crisis, or do we like prevent a crisis?
You prevent the crisis because a proposal comes through, but the proposal is not settled until after the challenge window is over. So you only actually use that data or that assertion if it doesn't get disputed. So in the oSnap case, that's like a 1 to 3 day challenge window because we made it super conservative for DAOs. Realistically, it could probably be a lot shorter and be totally safe, but like DAOs are not in a big hurry. They just want to prioritize like safety. So if somebody is like, hey, like the DAO said they're paying me $10 million to this address, and they didn't actually say that, that gets disputed, and the person that made that malicious proposal is going to lose their bond. And they're going to lose that bond realistically to a bot, because bots are looking at these things and they're competing to be the first ones to dispute if there is something that's disputable.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for explaining that clears up.
Awesome. Are there any other questions that anybody has? Okay, and if not, thank you all for attending. Thank you, John, for the great workshop and presentation. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend. So thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.